Hello, friends. That one doesn't like when I use the B word. We are back for a almost 2 day late summary of day 13 of the George Wagner IV trial. This took place on Wednesday, September 28th. I didn't make a video yesterday. It was my anniversary, and I've been married for 9 years. Yay. And, I was cleaning my house, and I had a lot of things to do. So let's get this summed up. And good news is we didn't have court today because somebody's sick. So let's get into it, and we'll be all set for Friday. All right, first things first, they did clarify what the issue was with the Post-it note. The previous day when they released court at lunchtime, this would have been the 27th. So a juror sent a note to the judge that they had a family issue that needed dealt with in a timely manner. So rather than dismissing the juror entirely, Judge Randy Deering decided to just dismiss early for the day. What's the point of alternate jurors? Because we didn't have court today because a juror was sick. I mean, I understand a point of alternate jurors would be if a juror had to be removed or something, but, like, shouldn't they also be for situations like this? And I don't know exactly how many, but I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that it was 6. That's a lot. And also, is this the same juror that keeps causing problems? That's my other question. Remember when we had the diabetic that needed the break, and which is, out of their control, probably. And now we have family issues and a sick one. Like, is this the same juror? Anyway, we are back to day 13. So this was the first time the defense began to present any sort of reasonable doubt. So we are still seeing shoe expert Suzanne Elliott. She was not filmed or audio recorded on the 26th, and she was not on the 27th, and she was not on the 28th as well. So she started off talking about the shoe prints. So to recap about the murder shoes, we do have proof that Angela Wagner is on video buying sets of the murder shoes, the Papal murder shoes, and she had a receipt that matched it because she's an idiot and didn't burn that with the shoes. The boys said they never saw them. She said she bought them for the boys, but the boys didn't like them. So they apparently didn't get their story straight on that either. They never found them, but they did find the receipt, like I said. And Jake will testify later that the shoes were burned after the murders. So go to part 2. We'll finish her up and get going. Day 13, part 2. So the murder shoes, there are prints that match the murder shoes at 2 of the 4 scenes. I don't recall. Well, I mean, we didn't see this testimony, so I couldn't tell you. I don't know which ones they were, with the exception of Chris Sr.'s house, because that is the one that the piece of flooring came from. So obviously they were there, but I don't know which other scene. There's no real point in me speculating. It could be any of them. Actually, that's not true. It's not Kenneth's. So it would either be Frankie's or Dana's, because there was almost no evidence that was taken out of Kenneth Roden's trailer. On cross-examination by the defense, Suzanne Elliott, shoe print expert, did say that she could not say who wore any of the shoes, but the 2 sizes, so apparently these are from 2 different shoes, were a 10.5 and 11. The state has not said what size shoes the Wagner family wore. I believe I saw something about a rumor, maybe true, something like that, that George wears an 11. Now, the reasonable doubt, which is pretty fucking unreasonable if you ask me. The reasonable doubt that the defense had the absolute balls to stand up there and present today, which good for you for having the guts to do this in front of the entire Roden family. They testified that Leonard Manley, if you remember, Bobby Joe Manley is who found them, that was Dana's sister. Leonard Manley was Dana and Bobby Joe's father. Turns out Dana's father wore the identical shoes. Like I told you, they were Papal shoes. Let me see if I can find the picture still. These are the Papal shoes. I mean, I don't know what kind of shoes your grandpa wore, but this is pretty much what my grandpa wore. So the defense basically is saying that they this could have been Leonard Manley, Dana's father, that left these prints in blood at this scene. And as far as I know, Leonard Manley was never at the scenes. That's a pretty bold claim. But they did say that it was a size 10 that he wore, and it did not match the prints because his shoes were very worn. They said that the tread print was worn and that they did have the purchase record. The BCI agent later said that they did have the purchase record and that it was sometime around January or February prior to the murder, and he had been wearing them. They were seized when they did the search warrant 25 days after the murder and tested negative for blood. So that was pretty well ruled out. So go to part 3. Day 13, part 3. So the defense was basically going for the reasonable doubt that Leonard Manley, was either at the scenes when the bodies were found or he was the killer, which is disgusting. Leonard Manley died last year before this trial could get started, and it's pretty rich to be making accusations of the dead, but whatever. The shoe expert also said that she could not confirm that Billy or George or anybody would have been wearing the shoes because there is no way that she can discern that. Next, we had a brief appearance, or the first appearance of, because she will be recalled later, Julia, I'm not even going to pretend to pronounce her last name, Eveslage. So Miss Julia works for BCI. She is a phone records expert. She revealed in her testimony that Hannah Mae Roden was in contact with Jake Wagner the night of the murders around 9 p.m., which would not be unusual. They do share a child, and Sophia was with the Wagners at the time. Just a refresher, Hannah Mae was home after giving birth to her second daughter, Kylie, who was only 4 days old at this point. So it would have been reasonable for her to be talking to Jake. Next would have been Frankie Roden's last phone activity was around 10:30 p.m. the night of the deaths. Most of these are text messages. They do not have the content of the text messages, just the text message records. And apparently AT&T doesn't keep records of text messages, period. So there's that little nugget just in case you ever need to know. They keep record of the exchanges. They do not keep record of the content, and there is no way that they can get it. Use that how you will. Anyway, Kenneth Roden last used his phone around 9:41 p.m. the night that he was killed. He was talking to his ex-wife, Stacy, I believe her name is. We talked about Chris Jr., but I don't see anything in the summary about it. So I would have to go back and watch it again because it must not have been very significant because I don't remember hearing it. Hannah Hazel Gilley's phone was last used at 1 a.m. the morning the bodies were found. And Dana Roden last had phone activity at 3:30 a.m. But earlier in the night, around 11, she did have contact with Chris Sr., but Chris Sr. stopped around 11 p.m., which would fit the story that this was basically a ambush on Chris Sr. and Gary Roden at their house for a probably false drug-related issue. Gary Roden did not have a cell phone, so that adds to it. So go to part 4. My hair was getting on my nerves, so I pulled it up. If you do remember, we did also talk about the phone calls and Billy Wagner leaving his phone at home with Angela Wagner so that Chris Sr. could call it under the guise of it being lost so that it would potentially establish an alibi and ping Billy's phone in the area of his home on Peterson Road. None of the phones, with the exception of Frankie Roden, none of the victims' phones were recovered. So that is the end of her testimony today. She also does other types of investigations, and she will be coming back more times to testify. Also, I read today that this trial is expected to go through the 1st of November, like the first week in November. I don't know about this daily shit anymore, but we'll go. We'll ride her till the wheels come off. Later in the afternoon, BCI agent Ryan Scheiderer, 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 was called to the stand. I liked this guy. He was an investigator. This is a lead BCI agent. So he was basically running the homicide case once BCI was called in, and remains on the case to this day. We talked earlier about the different zones that BCI has, and he is in the southeast zone, which is where Pike County and Scioto County both are. That note that Scioto County is involved is going to come up. So in the days following the day of and the days following the murders, Scheider went to the area to neighbors' homes looking for camera footage, and he found some. This is a house on Union Hill Road, and he also found a house on Left Fork Road that had footage of the road. He was, of course, filmed and audio recorded, and they did show these videos in court. There's nothing on them. These are security videos, and I'm going to list off the times and everything and what you see. And you do see two vehicles in most of them, and you can tell they're traveling together. They are one right after the other one, and they are both pickup trucks. They said they can't recognize what kind of truck it is or what kind of vehicle it is. It's a pickup truck. I know what the back of a pickup truck looks like. We all know what the back of a pickup truck looks like. That's what these are. At 1:36 a.m., a vehicle leaves the area of the crime scenes on Union Hill Road and turns onto State Route 772. 2 a.m., vehicle seen driving off State Route 772 down Union Hill Road toward the crime scenes. 2:29, a vehicle is seen driving down Left Fork Road towards Kenneth Roden's camper. 2:41, two vehicles are seen leaving the area of the crime scenes and making a left turn onto State Route 772. 2:51, a vehicle is seen driving down Left Fork Road towards Kenneth Roden's camper again. 3:10, vehicle driving away from Kenneth Roden's camper on Left Fork. Go to the next part. I'll finish it up. Day 13, part 5, probably the last part. I say that every day on like part 5, and then we end on part 9, so we'll see. Okay, 2:51 a.m., a vehicle is seen driving down Left Fork Road towards Kenneth Roden's camper. That's where we left off on the previous video. 3:10 a.m., a vehicle is seen driving away from Kenneth Roden's camper on Left Fork Road. 3:19 a.m., two vehicles drive down State Route 772 and turn onto Union Hill Road towards the crime scenes. Now, 772 is a road that would be a back way to get from Union Hill Road to Left Fork Road. These are all back roads. Every single one, tiny little back roads, weavy, country roads. So what this looks like to me is that there was a lot of running around. And this actually, if you look at the cell phone data, kind of lines up. Because you remember how I said that Dana last had activity at 3:30 a.m.? And previously they had said she worked a double shift, and she is seen on video at a gas station and had been in contact with Chris Jr. prior while she was at work and potentially in the car on the way home. And Jake said they had to wait for her to come home. So if they were turning onto Union Hill Road at 3:19 a.m. and the last activity on Dana's Roden's phone was at 3:31, I think it was, and they said she was around 3:30 a.m. So, and they said she was in bed on her phone, playing on her phone when she was initially shot. That kind of checks out. But also, they're driving away from Kenneth Roden's camper on Left Fork Road at 3:10 a.m. If you remember back, probably the second week, we had the friend and co-worker of Kenneth Roden who said he pulled in his driveway at 4 a.m. I'm kind of cutting this kind of close, don't you think? There is, of course, no way to tell what type of vehicles these are, whether it's the same vehicle in all these videos, etc. But these vehicles are definitely traveling together. If you go on YouTube, you can find it. It's towards the end of the day. So you can fast forward pretty far into the video and find these. They do show them. They're sped up. They have adjusted timestamps, that sort of thing. But I don't know what type of vehicles they are necessarily, but the vehicles are consistent. Like the tail lights are consistent. The tag lights are consistent between the videos. So whoever this is, it is most likely the same vehicles in these videos. And these are back roads that most people wouldn't be on at 3 a.m. Usually if you are on a back road like this at 3 a.m., you're going home or you're going to work. You don't just go out and drive these, especially not on like a Thursday night, Friday morning, maybe like a Saturday night. Go to the next part. All right, last one for today. The jury was dismissed around 4:10 p.m. and sent home till Thursday morning, and they canceled it today because the juror was sick again. So that's where that catches us up today. So on cross-examination for the day, now they're going to interview this investigator again, probably multiple times. They're trying to go in chunks so that it's not overwhelming or confusing to the jury. So this investigator did not like them defense attorneys, and he barely hit it. He doesn't like them. And they were questioning him, and he was not being cooperative. He was, of course, cooperating in the sense that he was giving them answers and things like that, but he was not being cooperative as far as giving up not a word more than he had to. Now, the defense is still sticking to their theory that Dana Roden's house is, in fact, in Scioto County. And they were questioning this guy about the Ohio Constitution, which he said he is not held to. He is held to the Ohio Revised Code. Probably both. Probably didn't hear that right. That kind of sounds wrong. But the Ohio Revised Code has a stipulation in it, I forget what he called it, that if a crime is occurring, if it's the same crime, basically, that the same entities can investigate it, prosecute it, etc. Because the defense is going on this big thing that Dana Roden's crime scene should be tossed out because it should be being tried in Scioto County. That's not going to negate the things that happened at the other two. Like, at best, this gets taken in and you get 2 trials. Like, okay, enjoy being guilty at both of them. Like, it's just stupid. It's a waste of resources. And I understand that he's going to trial right now because he is the one with the best chance of reasonable doubt. And he's just shooting his shot and rolling the dice because he's getting life in prison regardless. Unless he's found innocent, which he's not. And even if he was not present at the time, the timestamps, when everything else is not starting until 1:36 a.m., there were 2 hours between when Chris Sr. and Gary were killed and when the others started. You knew. You had time to stop it. You had time to call the cops and have the cops stop it. But you didn't because you're complicit. So whether he pulled a trigger or not, to me, is irrelevant. Because he was clearly home, he was clearly involved, and he knew what was happening. And that's at best. That's assuming he is the good member of this family and that his family's insane and that he had nothing to do with this. And that's just not the case. It's just not. Let me know what you think. I'll see you tomorrow.
I presume in other cases. You've testified in other cases.
Yes.
And you're aware that as long as there's a continuing course of conduct, any county that the crime occurred in has jurisdiction, correct?
It's
a legal issue rather than a factual issue, Your Honor?
Your Honor, I would say as an investigator, he's very intimate with the Ohio Revised Code because he has to make his charging decisions.
I'll let him answer your question. Based on my experience, my training, my education, yes, I have encountered that issue and I'm aware of that issue.
Okay. That as long as some elements of the offense or some of the crimes occurred in a county, that county has jurisdiction over it.
Absolutely, yes.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Judge, if I could.
Yes.
Sir, are you aware of the Ohio Constitution requires that an offense, that the trial of an offense take place in the county where it was committed? Are you aware of that?
Unless it's
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this. The court has already ruled on this.
Judge, I'm following up on
I'll permit the recross. You may answer the question if you can.
I'll rephrase it. Are you aware that the Ohio Constitution requires that a trial take place in the county where the crime occurred? Are you aware of that?
unless it's a continuing course of conduct.
Listen to my question, sir. Are you aware that the Ohio Constitution, not the revised code, the Ohio Constitution requires that a trial of a crime take place in the county where it was committed? Are you aware of that or not?
I'm not specific of that Constitution, what you're talking about. No.
Thank you, then.
Your Honor, if I may.
Well, all right.
Were you present when Mr. Parker made that same argument to the court?
Objection.
Well, I'm going to sustain the objection. I think we've achieved that issue. The court will give appropriate instructions concerning venue of the case at the appropriate time and determine with the jury for instruction.
That is the part that I was speaking about the jurisdiction problems that this dude is just riding into the ground when clearly they've established that Pike County has the jurisdiction to be trying this, even though Dana Roden's residence was in fact in Scioto County. Basically, this investigator earlier in the day said that Scioto County didn't want shit to do with this. They let Pike County handle it. Adams County did as well. And I feel like they're literally just doing this so that in the event of a conviction, they're setting it up for a possible appeal. And you've made your point. Like, let it go. We get it. It's Scioto County. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Whether it's in Scioto County doesn't negate the fact that this motherfucker went in there and helped his family slaughter another family. But that doesn't matter what county it's in. So, anyway, there's that clip. I do watch my YouTube videos on law and crime on YouTube, and I watch them in playback on 1.5 speed, and you can usually understand everybody very well. See you tomorrow. I'm always out here looking like shit in these videos. I found the picture I was going to show you. BCI showed this picture today. This is a picture of the screen of his initial interview in May of 2016. Here is his hat, and this is his hair. The BCI agent remarked that he had dyed his hair prior to the crimes, and it has this weird outline from his hat. Apparently his hair was probably greasy, and every time I've seen a picture of it, his hair's been really greasy. And then apparently it had something to do with his fetish about Norman Reedus and the Boondock Saints thing, because the dark hair made him look more like Norman Reedus's character in the Boondock Saints. So that's what they said about it. I don't know exactly how true all that is, but this is what he would have looked like in May of 2016, which is when those funerals would have been, because I didn't think that was him at the beginning either.